There you
Oh
go.
yeah, thanks.
So give me just give me a brief rundown of how you kind of got to this point, where you're at now.
All right, so I've been working on this stuff for like almost 8 years now, and first I went to a music production course in Budapest, specified for Ableton Live, and I was just really into this production thing and seeing DJs with live performances on YouTube. For example, Hardwell, that is really enjoying himself on stage, and that's where the idea came that I want to do the same thing. So I went to a couple of production schools and courses, and then after secondary school, I moved to Liverpool to SAE Institute.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I also applied to your school, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I graduated there in 2 years. It was a bit of a mismatch for me, I felt, because it was more of people who were playing in bands and real guitarists and instruments and audio engineering stuff. And I was expecting more of like DJs as well and producers who I could collaborate with. But it was still very good to improve my English and also to write a lot of academic stuff, which I was really struggling back then. After that, I moved back to Hungary, to Budapest, and I went to a business school for 3 years, learning management. And I finished that last year, so right now I got most of my time just to focus on my music career. How I got to this point is a lot of patience and work. I don't know what details are you interested about, but
and so, well, this is great. It helps me. So with your obviously got into DJing, started to produce. Started to produce music. Did you start doing gigs as well? I saw on your Instagram you got some.
Mainly in Hungary. Before COVID, I had 1 or 2 smaller shows, so to say, per month. It could be just local pubs or restaurants, but in the summer I was playing on some Hungarian festivals as well in smaller stages, which was quite a big milestone for me and experience. And how I got those gigs was that I reached out to all the festivals in Hungary, 12 or 20 festivals, if I could play any of the stages for free and get experience. And 2 of them replied, and one of them actually invited me back next year with a contract to play.
Great. That's brilliant.
It was quite good.
Okay, this is great. And so tell me, because one of the things you said on your email was, which bits to focus on to achieve the end goal. The end goal was, was touring the world, playing your own music to audience and experience their reactions, which I think is great. We're looking at touring the world, making music and building an audience. So brilliant. So with your, obviously I know it's COVID at the moment, so it's slightly different. So tell me about your audience. Who would be your kind of, your demographic?
Okay. So I recently changed the styles a little bit in the last couple of months or half a year, so to say. I was more into popular EDM stuff, future house with good vocals on and melodic drops, and that wasn't really the closest to my heart. That I realized after a good while. I would rather focus on house music and tech house and a little bit more underground, which is more focused on the groove and just dancing. What was the question? Sorry.
Like your demographic.
Oh, yeah. So my demographic, I think my target demographic shifted a little bit from young people to more of like 20 plus up till 35 years old. And
that's good.
I don't know, to be fair. I'm
that's right. It's stuff we can definitely look into.
Yeah.
And keep like I'm just writing some notes as we go, so
okay,
I want to just take it in so we can get some ideas.
I'm running a lot of Facebook ads, and I'm targeting developed European countries like UK, Germany, France.
Great.
Where I can get the most from the streams, and also where I planning and would be great to play shows in the future.
Great, that sounds good. And what about you know, you said about your own music and stuff. What about music that you're writing and releasing? How at the moment, what are you releasing via any specific platforms? I know you're on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music and stuff. How are you finding those?
Okay, so I'm releasing most of my music through an online distributor called Symphonic Distribution.
Yeah.
They are very good in distributing stuff, and they don't take any cut from the royalties. And I really satisfied with Spotify. That's the algorithmic playlist, and it spreads my music to other people and gives me new opportunities to and to other people to discover my music. So I was focusing a lot on Spotify as well.
Yeah. But because your Spotify is great, you've got some big hitters on there.
Yeah.
So just like a Ghost and Eternally, those two obviously, you know, from what I can see, those two are really big hitters. Did the numbers come from ads or playlists or mixture? How did those work out?
Most of the numbers are on those tracks coming from Discover Weekly, actually. Just Like a Ghost was released like 3 years ago, and I'm still getting 70,000 plays per month, and many of them still coming from Discover Weekly. And,
so Just Like a Ghost is getting, how many did you say? 70,000 a month?
Yeah, streams.
Right. Yeah, 70,000 streams a month. And what have you got in the way of your next releases? Because The Groove is King just came out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And how did that go?
That performed over expectations, because I already had 3 other releases this year, and they didn't really got into the release radar either, but this one got into already. And I'm pushing it hard with Instagram story swipe up ads, because they work really well now for some reason, and it performs well, still like 2,000 streams per day, and
Great.
It's doing well.
Okay.
So far.
This is great. And at the moment, with your, obviously we'll talk about sort of building the audience and monetizing it in a minute. When it comes to gigs and tours and stuff, do you have any show reel or any footage of you performing live at any of these festivals?
Oh yeah, I've got a YouTube channel, and over there I've got some live performance videos as well.
Great.
Should I send you a link?
I'm on the. I went to your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Bring it up because I've. Ah, yes, great. It's really good. I mean, what's first impressions, by the way,
yeah.
You know, when you're doing it, your consistency is so good across different platforms. You know, you've built something or are building something which is consistent across and high standards across video, audio, pictures, social media, engagement. So for me, the next thing is, how do we inflate it? How do we keep growing it and inflate it? And where's the return of investment? Which, like you said, for you, hopefully will be festivals. It's quite interesting, actually. I've got a friend who I've been working with this week, who's a DJ especially in Mexico, but in the kind of Latin scene. He's called Alan Salomon. And he's in a similar kind of thing. He came to me and he basically said, he's got a bunch of record deals, so they're pushing his music out. They do nothing for him at all. Like, I don't understand. They're basically just taking all of the money. And I'm like, you can do all this yourself. Like, you've got the power, you know, you can build the audience, you can develop this. And he's obviously makes money from his live gigs because he does a lot of festivals and you know, big level stuff he gets flown to like China and other places like that, which is amazing. But, you know, streaming wise and other bits, there's just too many people involved, all taking a share and doing very, very little for it. And, you know, what I see with your stuff is very similar. You are the linchpin of the whole thing. You're in a place where you're in control because you make the music. So therefore you have the publishing, you know, depending on what you know, what pieces of music you use, but on the whole, you have the publishing, you have the power uploads, you have the streaming royalties, everything should come through to you. The next thing is, how do we inflate this? And for me, how do we grow the audience and how do we actually pinpoint the return of investment to actually get that back in again? Which for me, I think if you're prepared to go on tour of the world, there's a lot of money. I've got a friend who actually works in the UK as an agent. She works at an agency for DJs.
All right.
High end, like, you know, Steve Aoki is one of the DJs. Yeah. They work with people like Tiesto, and a few others like that. So, you know, high end DJs, the money is insane because they're constantly being flown out to, you know, to the UAE or different places. Yeah. Steve Aoki has to have his own private jet half the time because he's literally like, he's got to get from one place to another. They're paying him, you know, $750,000 for a gig. So it's because he's got the attention, he's got an audience, but also everyone knows who he is. And then on top of that, he can monetize that with everybody wants him to play at their show. Yeah. So what we've got to do, you know, with yours, the main thing is really start to inflate it, start to build. So next, that's all really, really good.
Just more context that I started to realize more and more that record labels can also have to grow my name and get their audience to know my name. And I started to reach out to them as well. And right now, I was really keen on producing music on a big tech house record label called Future House Music, and they have like a tech house sub-label. And they just send me an email if I have any demos for them, and I couldn't believe it that it really happened. It must be a mistake, and it must be a scam or something, but it's real. And we just wanted. I was constantly sending him them demos via the demo mail, and they wasn't even listening to my demos. But now it's just turned around for some reason, because they wrote that they really liked the things that I'm releasing and Groove is the king. And if I have any demos for them, they would be happy to have a listen and stuff.
Right. And do you know, I mean, I'm sure you haven't got into detail with them, but do you know what the deal is with them, what they do for that?
So most of these labels have their own YouTube channel and have people on Beatport, because Beatport is very quite important for house music in tech house. Maybe it's even more important than Spotify because of the DJ support. I see it that way, that it's quite important, and they provide they can provide DJ support through their contacts. Obviously, they support me and represent me on their socials. Do some Spotify editorial playlist placements if they can. Maybe radio plays, but it depends on the label, of course.
Well, I was going to say that's the key. The key to this for you is what label, what happens, because, you know, again, it's literally what we on Tuesday, just before the weekend, sat down with Alan. He's got 4 labels around the world. And, you know, the issue is a good label is worth it, 100%. You know, and I'm not going to diss record labels, because there's some great ones out there. And, you know, all of a sudden, if Universal Music Group comes knocking at your door, you don't turn them down. I get that. But what we have to make sure is, we have to make sure that if you're going to give away, which is, you know, 50% a lot of the times with a lot of these labels, they take 50%.
Or even more. It's like more common to take 70 or 80%.
Oh, really? So his is 50. So great. So if you're giving away 70 or 80% of your streaming, you're giving away almost all of it. I mean, even at 50%, you know, and I get it, 50% of £1 million is a lot of money. And, you know, but at the same point, from experience, the right label, yes, if they've got contacts that they're like, you know, all of a sudden, you know, we can get you on tour with Mesto, or we can get you on tour with you know, Tiesto, then great, fine. At that point, we can do it. But what we can't do is we can't give away all of your work, because, you know, the difference is now is the difference between this sector of the music that you are making and the old school routine of what labels used to do is they used to put the money into making the music and distributing the music. And distributing the music back then was printing 100,000 copies of a CD, sticking it onto the back of lorries and shipping that out into every single record shop in the whole of the country. You just go, I can't do that. There's no way on earth I can do that. That's going to cost hundreds of thousands of euros. But now, if it's going to be, I can put you onto Spotify and I can actually get you onto editorial playlists, they need to be good. They need to be big. Otherwise, you know, your 20%, 30% or 50% has to be worth more than the 100% that you can do yourself. Because, you know, the stuff that you're doing, one thing I think the first thing I want you to know is there's a reason. I think you looked shocked when they were like, yeah, he's come back and he's really interested. I mean, of course he is. Your stuff's great. Your music's really good. Your standard's really good. The audience is really building. Like, why wouldn't you be interested? When I was talking to Alan, I was just like, he was chatting and he was like, you know, in my head, I was like, I could manage you and make 50 grand out of you. Easy. Because he's got a big audience. He's already doing a bunch of festivals. All I've got to do is just expand it, take 20%. So if I'm taking 70%, I'm like, sign me up. Where's the money? So, you know, we've just got to be careful that, you know, with every artist and with every label, you know, we can't sign your rights away. So all of a sudden, you know, it's like all you get then at that point is 20%, which is not a lot, and then, or 30%. And then at that point, you know, live gigs. So, you know, we just have to be a bit careful of it. I don't know if you know Russ. I know he's a different genre, but Russ is like a hip hop rapper as such. But, you know, Russ is a really, really good example of someone who just didn't face the music industry and faced people, the audience, and said, I'm going to make a lot of music, quality and quantity. I'm going to build the audience. Now, when you hear Russ talk, he says, and I get this all the time, everyone just goes, there's no money in streaming, blah, 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 streaming shit. You get no money for every stream. And Russ is there being like, that's rubbish. It's utter nonsense. You're just not playing the streaming game right. Yeah. If you make a piece of music and you just stick it onto Spotify, then yeah, okay, maybe there's no money in it. But if you manage music, if you can actually understand how to get music into certain places and you build a library of that music. So, Drake's got 225 songs on Spotify. He doesn't have 3 songs or 5 songs or 10 songs. He's got 225 of them. He's constantly looking at repeating the cycle, bring more people in, get more people in, that whilst they're there, they're not listening to one song, they're listening to a playlist. If I'm pushing something out as an advert, I'm not pushing a song, I'm pushing a playlist of my music. So that way they're not getting one song, I'm 10xing the amount of streams. Now, Russ did that. Russ makes an insane amount of money because he's got a big library. He's constantly bringing people back again and again and again. And so, why would he give that away?
Yes, how I see this is, if I get to on a good label, it also builds a reputation around my name. Because, for example, maybe some promoters ask that, what labels are you on, and they will be more interested to book me than if I just release music on my own. And,
so question a question on that. What happens if you got 100,000 followers on Instagram and you approach a festival? Are they going to, just a question, and with those 100,000 followers, you're getting engagement on every picture of 6,000 to 10,000 likes, comments. This is a real audience.
Yeah.
At that point, just asking, do you think the festivals that you're approaching would care which label you're on as much because you've got an audience that you're completely in control of?
Probably not.
It's just something to think about. The thing with labels is I've got 2 artists that I'm working at the moment who've got multiple labels coming at them. I got signed to Parlophone when I was 18 years old. And I remember the feeling. It was just like, I've made it. I've done it.
Yeah.
It's the label. They're going to do everything. And especially, that was back then. Like even now, I'm just aware of like, let's go into something with our eyes open. And the more leverage you've got, the more labels will pay. And I want you to get to the point where when a label says we're interested, and they say 70% or 80%, you say, no, fuck, no way, 50% max, and have them go, of course, because you've got more leverage than most other artists, because they're just going, yeah, but I want them to be saying 50% of this is worthwhile, as opposed to you saying 20% of being signed to a label is worthwhile, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the power comes, the entire leverage and the power comes from the audience, because when you've got an audience that just goes, I love you, I love what you do, I'm going across to Spotify. Don't forget as well as, you've got some big hits on Spotify. The reason for that is because when you throw a single up, and what most artists do is they put a single out and they start to push it over a period of time. But the release of a single, and how good it is, but the release of a single is the difference between getting 1,000 or 2,000 streams versus 1 million to 2 million streams. Because if that first week is good enough, then, and it goes up and people start putting it into their own playlists, all of a sudden the rockets happen and it starts to go up for you. You're not doing any work, it's doing it for you. Like you've got with Just Like a Ghost. Yeah. I mean, it's doing the work for you. You just said 70,000 extra spins a month on that track. The reason is because it's in a bunch of playlists, and then those playlists get heard by other people who put it into their playlists. And instead of actually just going whoop, whoop, it's going up and it's going out. And instead of coming back down, it's kind of mushrooming and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that is because A, you're making good music, and B, you can trigger that first couple of weeks so that when you're putting something out, the playlists are going, oh, this is really good. You're getting in front of the right people, but also the audience is pushing it. The audience is liking it. They're putting it into playlists. They're showing you that they like it. So for me, I think the biggest thing that we've got to do is we have to, continually grow your audience, carry on putting out with a really strategy. But the big thing is figure out how you're going to monetize this. And
because you said that thing that we have to do is inflate it and make it bigger. And I see that I've got many good opportunities from the music production side as well, because I went to this exchange student semester in Amsterdam last year, and I was coached by Martin Garrix's producer, and I still work with him every second week. We have a meeting when we discuss my music and we work together to perfect it. So the music shouldn't be a problem, I guess, and it's just rather how to communicate and grow the audience.
Yeah. So with all that in mind, give me the things that you're struggling with.
Okay. Just sitting down and producing music constantly and prioritizing my tasks. I'm into also building a small team around me. I've got a guy who helps me with YouTube already. And also I get help on the production side. So almost a year ago, I made everything on my own, produced and mastered everything. But I started to realize if I outsource some of the tasks and get other people into the production, and I focus on the most
important things.
Yeah, and the things that I enjoy and the things that I'm good at. I can more product and songs out there, a better quality. So I'm trying to still get used to outsourcing tasks and building the team.
Correct.
And also, I'm not that big of a networking guy. I'm more of a introvert, so networking could be more serious for me, so to say. I'm also started collaborating with other artists with almost like a finished track, 90% finished track. I just reach out to them if they're interested in putting their name on and maybe do some changes. And that way we can get their audiences, my audience, to mix and get to know each other.
Yeah.
And that's not as easy as I thought it would be, because there are issues like whose name should go first, because the other guy wants his name go first, and I did 90% of the production and the stuff.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. I love the ego that's involved in people who just going, I've done 10% and I want my name first.
Yeah, and also they want to get to parts of specific record label that's good for tech house and their name. And yeah, that's also one of the reasons why we are looking to release on record labels, because they take care of their accounting. But on the other hand, I'm also signed up to DistroKid, where you can just manage or do this automatic payment splits, and I release some of the collaborations over there.
Okay, it's really good. There's loads of good stuff in there. And, what I love about it is, you did the music side to it, education-wise, then you jumped into a business side to it. I love the way that you're thinking about this in a business, sense. The thing that you just said is, I think, is the most important aspect of this whole thing is when it comes to prioritizing, you doing the most important things is key, because what we've got to do is, everyone talks about quality versus quantity, and it's really weird, because it's like, well, we have to do both. We can't, it's not quality versus quantity. It's how can we get quality and quantity? And so when we start talking about quality versus quantity, we are making an excuse for either making stuff which is substandard, or we're making an excuse to saying it just means I don't have to put out as much stuff. And it's not, it just doesn't work like that, because it's not up to us. It's up to the audience to decide if they're going to get bored and go away. Yeah. So we've got to try and keep the momentum flowing. And same thing with you start riding a bike, you put your foot on the pedal. As soon as you push off, it's not up to you when you decide to put your foot on the other pedal. If you don't do it pretty soon, the bike falls over because the momentum's been lost. It's exactly the same with a single. So you being able to build a team where you can delegate and pass out and outsource the aspects of this that aren't for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I've been able to build it. I'm just trying to build it now.
Yeah, but that's fine, because the idea is the key bit, and how you build this team. So one thing I would definitely say is having a think about the priorities and what you can outsource. So you've got a list of them and just say, look, I want to outsource a bunch of different things. What's the bits that I'm good at? One of the things you also said is, when I said about struggles, you said sort of the consistency of producing music.
Yeah.
So what would you like ideally? What would your ideal release amount be per year?
For this year, I got this goal in mind to release a track every 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. And I released 4 singles this year already, but I'm sort of behind now with the next one. And
how do you find on that? How do you find, because 2 to 3 weeks is a lot. That's a lot of content. Russ did his, every single week for 97 weeks, which is incredible. That is extreme, but it absolutely worked for him. If you looked at the way he grew because of it, I think one of the things there is he took people on a journey. He took people on a story, and it wasn't just I'm putting music out. I'm building my library, but it's almost like a Netflix documentary. It's like, and another one here, and come back next week, and then come back next week. Yeah. And then he was able to play one off the others and build up. So, but it's a lot. It's a lot of work. Time wise, because obviously priorities, I'm a big believer in, most people say they've got a time management issue. And I think most people have a priority management issue as opposed to a time management issue. Tell me about sort of your week. Do you work full time? How much time have you got?
Since I finished university last summer, I can just focus on music purely, which I'm very grateful for. So I don't have any full-time job or anything like that. But I right now just stay at home on the countryside and sit down every morning and try to push it and work on it as much as possible. And of course, there are distractions, like at the weekends, people invite me to go party and do a lot of activities, but that's okay. But also I quite into sports, and I do BMXing. I ride BMX and do street workout as well. And that takes up some of my afternoons.
Well, this is, I don't buy, I buy into the whole kind of work ethic, obviously is a big thing, but I don't buy into the GaryVee. You need to like be sat at a desk 18 hours a day, killing yourself. It's just like, all right, Gary, I get it. You work really hard. And like the thing with GaryVee is I've got a friend who actually was a business partner of GaryVee.
Okay.
And I was like, because I love GaryVee.
Yeah, me too. I watched all.
I was like, yeah, he's amazing. He's such a great, amazing guy. And I was just like, I think the one issue for me with GaryVee is I think he does kind of realize it, but it's the same way when he talks about this stuff. It will be the same way as like, Shaquille O'Neal just being like, yeah, he's just basketball. And it's like, mate, you are built for this shit. Like most people can't do what you do. I think I'm a workaholic, and I look at GaryVee and I'm like, fuck. And so the thing with GaryVee is he does have about 30 33 people in his team who are in his brand Gary. This is not like get VaynerMedia. This is just around him. So, you know, when he's going beyond all these different platforms, and you know, and everyone's mental health is going through the roof, being like, and now you've got to be on TikTok and Clubhouse, and now you've got to be on, you know, on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, and it's like, man, I also have to produce music and live and breathe and eat and do something. So I think we also have to be realistic, which is let's do things very well. And then once we can grow into other things, we do. I think, you know, I think your strategy of, you know, YouTube and Instagram at the moment is really, really good.
Okay.
So, you know, with your timings side of it, what about financially? You said that you've been running some Facebook ads. Just run me through those at the moment.
Yeah. So I run Facebook ads when I release music. I spend around $300 to $500 per month in Facebook ads, and they really work well. So I use the swipe up function to drive them to a landing page, tone them, where they can click through my Spotify or Apple Music or YouTube or whatever. Yeah. And I get like 9 or 10 cents per content view. So the people that click through.
So that's per, is that for to actually get to Spotify, or is that to get to the landing page?
No, to get to Spotify.
Great.
Yeah.
Per Spotify listen. That's really, really good. And where are you sending them when you send them to Spotify? Do you send them to your latest single?
Yeah, straight to the latest single.
Okay, Spotify single. Have a think about, just on that note, we've started running similar kind of ads, but we're sending people to playlists. So it still comes out with that first single, but what happens is when we send them to a playlist, it means it goes straight into, 10 songs, for example.
Okay.
And so it's a way of starting to build those streams, because there's a good chance that if someone's listening to your single and then they just go, oh, I'll just, they'll just leave it play, or I'm into it. There's a good chance that they'll go like 8, 9, 10 songs in, and all of a sudden you're getting 10 times the financial income for the 9 cents click, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth doing. And what about, that's really good. And what about with your growth for Instagram? How are you getting attention to your Instagram at the moment?
Just posting, trying to post frequently, and some of the people come over from the Instagram ads that I'm running, and I've got some friends who I ride BMX with who are big influencers, and they tag me sometimes and get a lot of Hungarian followers from them as well. And I had this issue that my following was decreasing from 15, 16K to this 13K something level, because till 2 years ago I was running this automation software that followed people, and like people post every day, and that brought a lot of growth, but they weren't really engaging that much. If I would just get them organic or something, some other normal way.
Yeah, that's okay, because we can still, we're going to build it. Everybody I talk to in their past, because everyone's obviously trying to build. Everyone's got something, everyone's done, everyone's tried that. I did it as well. Everyone's tried going, oh, I'll do the follow for a follow thing. Oh, I'll try going and talking to people. Oh, I'll go, everyone's trying to find their way of doing stuff. And everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't do these things. The one thing I would say is, right now we are in the golden time for advertising, as you're finding with your Facebook ads for Spotify. Back in the day, it was a golden time for organic reach. It was like, people were just mining for gold. People would put out stuff on YouTube, get massive followings. They'd do stuff on Instagram. It would just be organic reach. The thing is, the organic reach just isn't there anymore. So we're now shouting into the same rooms and trying to get people in to Instagram organically, and it's very, very difficult. And yes, we can do hashtags, and posting content consistently is really, really good, but unless we're posting shareable content, then it's very difficult to break out of the room, because effectively the doors are closed. So no matter how much content we put it out, unless someone picks it up and takes it out of the room for us, it isn't going to leave the room very easily. Yes, there's explore pages, but very, very difficult without a big amount of engagement to get onto a lot of people's explore pages. But we are in a golden time. The same way as we look back now and go, oh, we shouldn't have to pay for this, we used to get it for free. Well, we will look back in 10 years' time and just go, God, remember when we used to get like 10 cents for a click? It was ridiculous. Yeah. And so personally, I think what you should be doing is we should be looking at a certain amount of money to bring people in, open those doors and bring them into your Instagram. Because if we house people in your Instagram, we can push them around. We can push them to Spotify or Apple or YouTube. It's the easiest place to retarget. One thing you can't do is you can't retarget people from from Spotify. People go into your Spotify, you can retarget them through your landing page, which is really good. But let's say, for example, people go into your Spotify, they listen to 5 seconds and they bounce. So they've just given bad data to Spotify and they've bounced. Yeah. We can't target them anyway. So it's very, very difficult. If someone goes in and listens to 10 songs and doesn't come across your Instagram, again, we can't target them. But as soon as someone steps foot into your Instagram, if they engage, if they like, if they DM you, any of these things, we can specifically retarget them and just say, get this message in front of those people. And so, like you found with the Just Like a Ghost, if we can push it up fast enough, quick enough, then it doesn't come down so quick. It starts to go up even higher because it goes out of the atmosphere of the earth and starts to just keep on going. Now we've got to do that. And we've also got to be able to start thinking about your return of investment. I think this is the big thing. You've given me all this information. The bits for you is label or no label, fine. We'll deal with that, whatever comes in. But for me, I want everyone to know who you are. I want more people to know who you are. I want to be able to retarget them so that when you're doing this return of investment, we're able to think about whether you want to do merch lines, whether you want to do Patreon, whether you want to do touring, all of these things. And a big part of that is having access to these audiences. So one of the last question before we go into kind of some ideas moving forward.
Okay.
You're in Hungary at the moment. So yeah. I know you said about touring the world. I know you did the follow thing, but from an engaged audience point of view, are these people in any specific areas, or are there specific areas that we should be targeting because of the style of music?
Yeah, I feel like from the Spotify analytics, I can see that's 1/3 or 40% of the people are from Germany. So there I have some name already, and this type of music fits there quite well. Like France or the Netherlands is also, and also the UK is a quite big one for stack house and house music.
So mostly Europe.
Yeah, but on Instagram I got many people from Mexico for some reason, and in Japan there are many people on Instagram who are posting stories with my music and
interesting,
commenting and sharing my music as well.
Interesting. So, and any from Brazil?
Brazil, no, I haven't noticed that. If that would
fine.
Be, yeah.
There's a big, I'm in Tulum in Mexico at the moment.
Yeah.
and there's a big DJ scene around here because there's a lot of DJs who go and play live. And so apart from there's lots of gigs around here, there's also just lots of, because there's loads of people that go out, and you've got loads of these kind of travelers that are out partying until 3 in the morning. So there's lots of things like deep house and other stuff. So I'm not an expert in the styles, so it would depend. But I know that when you get middle-class trust fund kids who go traveling to certain countries and live there for like 9 months, you get a lot of DJs in and around that area because they want to party until stupid o'clock in the morning. So targeting those places might be a good thing. And so with your ads, do you run tier systems, or do you just target, how do you target the audience? Do you target a custom audience? Do you do a lookalike audience? Do you do a certain DJ? How would you target?
I do lookalike audience, people who visited my landing page before, and I created a lookalike audience from that.
And do you do separate campaigns into different countries? Because obviously, UK is going to be more expensive to advertise to than Mexico. And if you do UK and Mexico in the same place, most of it will get dragged into Mexico spend-wise. So how do you split?
No, I just got this custom country lists, which are called the Spotify green light countries, that are the per stream ratio is the highest. And I started to get rid of the outside European countries like Australia, USA, Canada, because first I would prefer to just get a name nearby somewhere, and
that's expensive.
That way most of my ads are shown in Germany and France.
Right. Interesting. Great. So
and I also run retargeting ads sometimes with my 20% of the budget. People who visited my Instagram page and Facebook page in the last couple of months, and I just retarget those as well to new music releases.
So everything you're doing is like so well thought out. Your strategy is like it's so tight. There's so much good stuff in it. So for me, I'm like, every time you're saying stuff, there's not a lot of bits where I'm just like, oh, this is a problem. It's just the next thing is how do we inflate it? Because you've built something which is fucking great. Like the music's great, the standards are great, the videos are great. You're promoting it so well. The really strategy is good. There's so much good stuff in here. There's little things that we could tweak. I personally feel like the one area that I would like to see grow is Instagram, purely because social proof, when you go, I own an agency in a different field. It's commercial bands, but I understand the market of being a live agent because I've got 10 of them in an office booking gigs all of the time. And so social proof is key. I don't care about anything other than, if I'm booking that band or that artist, what are they going to do for me? It's like, yes, I like the music, but at the same point, brilliant. But you need to bring people, otherwise, it doesn't help me. And so the social proof of socials makes a difference. And having 10, 15,000 subscribers on Instagram is fine, but I would expect that 10 to 15,000 followers to be bringing in a couple of thousand likes and engagements on every single post. Otherwise, I just go, is it bought? Is it a like for a like or a follow for a follow? And so that's the bit I want to be able to improve that Instagram engagement, because that's what people will be looking at, as well as the music. But you've got the music side sewn up. I know you said about prioritizing and the consistency, which we can talk about, but I think Instagram is the game right now where you can improve if that's the platform you want to build on outside of it. It's also pretty simple. The way I think of Instagram.
I also have a TikTok that works quite well, because Overdrive.
Can you send me the link to that TikTok so I can have a look at it as well?
Sure.
Because that could be quite good.
It's the organic reach is quite.
Yeah, the organic reach is decent,
yeah.
and you can definitely build on TikTok as long as you've got the time. I'd keep TikTok as more organic growth, because the industry hasn't bought into TikTok the same way yet. It will, but just at the moment, it's not ready for it yet. Ooh, that's quite exciting. Great. 1 second. I'm having to verify my TikTok. Great. Gotcha. Yeah. So the organic reach here is great. You're getting some really good organic reach. So that's brilliant. I would keep that. But what I was going to say was the industry as yet is still looking at YouTube. The industry's, you have to remember, the industry's behind on everything. It always will be. So, when someone just goes, you've got to check out this new artist, they don't go, great, off they go to TikTok. It just doesn't happen. So TikTok is definitely more audience based for the moment than the industry. They will go to Instagram. They will go and check out your Instagram. And so, one thing I was going to say is on Instagram, you get what I think of as 3 different types of people in your Instagram. You get your ambassadors, you get your monetizers, and you get your sleepers. Your ambassadors are people who love what you do, they engage, they will go to your Spotify and listen to a track, they'll go to your YouTube, they'll comment, they'll like, they'll DM you, they'll share stuff, they're your cheerleader, they like what you do. But there's a good possibility that they haven't got any money, they're not in a place that you're going to go on tour, so therefore they're not digging into their pocket to give you money. They are helping you via streaming, but that's pretty much all they can do. But they're cheerleaders. And so they might be in countries like Mexico, like you said, Mexico or Japan or Brazil, which are cheaper to get to, cheaper to build, and they're still pushing the algorithm up in order for the monetizers to see what you're doing. Now, the monetizers are in cities and places that you probably not only can tour in front of, but potentially they also have some disposable income that might potentially spend some money. So if you're looking at things like, you put out a range of merch, they've got a bit of money, they love you or they like what you do, they're more likely to buy that t-shirt. You go on tour and you go to Paris or you go to Berlin or you go to Hamburg, they potentially will take that journey from wherever they are to that place to come and watch you perform live. The thing is with that is, because of the cities, the way the bidding works, because of the cities that they're in, the monetizers are much more expensive to get on board than the ambassadors. Then after that, you get the sleepers. Now you at the moment have a lot of sleepers because, like you said, the automated stuff, the sleepers are people who've gone, yeah, this is quite interesting. And then somewhere along the way, they've not seen your stuff for a while and they've forgotten about you and they're just sleeping, but they can be woken up. Now, the people who wake them up are the ambassadors, because if all of a sudden you go and you put a post out, and instead of getting 200 or 300 likes on a post, you're getting 500 or 600 likes on a post, Instagram goes, ooh, hang on a minute, this is obviously quite important. This is better than the last stuff you've done. And it'll start to push this to try and wake up more of the sleepers to say, hey, I know you were interested in some of this stuff, but I think this one's probably more important. It might be a life event or something, but I'm going to start trying to wake up the sleepers in order for them to become more active and go into one of the monetizers or the ambassadors.
Okay.
Which means when you're advertising and pushing into Instagram, we need to be able to have a tiered system, because it's expensive to advertise in London, like you said, or you've taken away Canada or Australia. Yeah, it's expensive. The big 4, Canada, Australia, UK, America, expensive to advertise. Then you get the second tier, parts of Europe, potentially Germany, potentially France. Then you've got tier 3, Mexico, Brazil, the Philippines. And so what tends to happen is, as you're pushing people into Instagram, it balances itself out because you're feeding good data. There's no bots. You're not advertising this to bots. Someone who is in Tulum right now could be 25. He could be from Germany, but he's traveling. He's in Tulum and he hears your music or he sees your advert and just goes, fuck, this is amazing. I love this. I'm swiping up. I'm in the follow, you know, I'm following, I'm across. Now, he's cheaper to get to because he's in Tulum. He's no less of a fan and he's no less of an audience member than anyone else, just because he happens to be in Mexico or he happens to be in Brazil. And so what we end up doing is we end up trying to target good people, real people in tiers 2 and tiers 3 to basically boost the extra people that we're going to pay for to get from tiers 1, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
So I feel like that to me is the area. If I'm looking at your game plan right now, you know, priorities, you know, the consistencies, all those little things are great, but we can work on those and networking and ideas. But right now, I feel like the social proofing of real people in your Instagram will not only help your Spotify numbers, but it will help your social proof. If someone comes on board and you've got 50,000 real people who are engaging, they will be much more likely to stick around. They'll be much more likely to go across to Spotify. So I think, and you know, and in 6 months' time, I might be saying to people, Instagram's dead, it's TikTok. The industry cares about TikTok, people care about TikTok. But at this moment in time, Instagram is real because it's so mainstream. You know, for artists, I will go to YouTube, I will go to Spotify, but I will also check stuff out on Instagram because it's real, because it's daily, because it's you. You know, I think how many posts you do on Instagram stories matters now more than it's ever mattered before. So I'm thinking, you know, 5 or 10 stories a day of just little bits, just little things here and there on your Instagram, just bits of your story of your day makes a big difference from people coming in. What we've got to do next is we have to make a bigger signpost and we've got to open the doors to your Instagram, because I think that's the one area that's closed. I think the doors are closed. And at the moment, you're making a lot of content and no one's taking it outside to show it.
Yeah.
So unless we can make shareable content, you're basically preaching to the converted.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I like this approach because I also feel like that I've worked really hard with it and produce a lot of content, but it would be much more, it would be better if more people would see it and just comment and engage.
You know what, like, you know, I do a lot of this stuff, obviously, it's my gig, but, you know, usually I'm like, okay, usually what happens on the whole is everyone's 10 paces forward and I'm like, you haven't built the foundations. Like, you know, you're trying to run before you can walk. And, you know, we've got to stop. We've got to go back to the beginning. We've got to start thinking about content creation. We've got to start thinking about, you know, Facebook ads, opening the doors, all releases, all of this different stuff. I'm looking at your stuff and I'm like, you've done almost everything. All we've got to do now is we have to monetize this. In my head, I'm like, we need a show reel showing to agencies why, when this thing kicks off again, why you are going to be ready for this gig. What you do, why you do it, how you do it, and why people love it. That show reel is like, we do a 30-second one, we do a 1-minute one, and we do a 3-minute one. And we just say, you know, I'm going to start approaching live agents and I'm just going to say, give me a gig, because I promise you, I'm in this, so I can promise you this is all over the world. Live agents right now are literally working every hour. I have a manager and I've got like with the agency, there's 10 people, there's a manager, there's kind of A&R/marketing, everyone else is sales. Phone call, phone call, phone call. People who are moving events, people who are trying to get new events, people who are like artists who are dropping out, being like, I've given up. Bands who've lost musicians, like festivals that want to put on, just going, are you still there? Like people like me that have just fucked off to Mexico, and someone's going, when this all comes back in, I'm just like, no, mate, I'm 3,000 miles away. Like I'm not just going to turn up to your event anymore. Yeah. So everyone's trying to figure out and going, okay, what have I got that I can put out on a gig? When someone calls, what have I got? Your opportunity right now is to say, I am ready. But in order to do that, you need the show reel and, you know, and all of the questions answered. I'm ready. I've got the stuff. Give me the gig. You know, if someone drops out, I'll fill in. If you've got a space, give me a chance. I will be there. I think you'll get a lot of agents that will thank you for that, because they're panicking. They're panicking right now. They're looking for musicians if they're bands. They're looking for artists if they're festivals. They also know what's going to happen is you are going to get July the 1st in the UK. I can only speak for the UK. July the 1st, everything's going to open. And as soon as everything opens, it's going to be gigs. So what happens is someone's going to go, I'll put on a little festival in my garden, or I'll go and do a wedding, or I'll go and go down to a local club. At that point, they're going to walk in, they're going to go, this is safe. This is okay. We're going to be okay. At that point, I know with my agency, the phones are going to go fucking mental. They're going to go crazy, and everyone's going to go, I want. And at that point, my main concern is I don't have enough product. I know, because I've got all of 2020 was taken away from me and it was pushed into 2021. And so now I've got people going, I want to book something for 2021. And I'm going, literally everything, all of 2020 has been dumped into 2021. And now people who are going to book for 2021 are going, I also want something. Every venue packed, every artist booked, every band booked. And I'm there being like, shit, I have no idea what's coming, but I know it's going to be a car crash. Okay. So I'm just preparing as much. So your job is to show on your socials and show via an EPK that live agents, I'm here for you. I'm ready. You know, every time I do a festival, they ask me back. I've got a bunch of testimonials from people. I've got a bunch of audiences going crazy. This is what I do. And I want you to, also the other thing I want you to do as well is I want you to go and check out Russ's Instagram. It'll take you 5 minutes. When you go to Russ's Instagram,
how do you spell it? R-U-S-S.
Yeah, just R-U-S-S. Yeah. All Russ did for 5 years was release tracks. I mean, he released a track every single week for 97 weeks. But when you go back, I want you to go back 5 years. Just keep scrolling back for 5 years. What you will see is almost the identical thing to what you see now. What he did was gig, song, gig, song, gig, song. And when you look at it now, he's playing 50,000 people. When you scroll back 6 months, he was doing 30,000 people. When you scroll back a year, he was, or whatever, it's 2 years, he was doing 12,000 or 2,000. Then like you get to a point where it's like he's playing to a club of 50 people and he's doing the same thing. Song, gig, song, gig. Because every time he does a gig, he's going outside of his Instagram and he's opening the doors and going, come in, come in, come in. Song, does another gig, come in, come in, come in. And he did it. And you see it on his Instagram, it's relentless again and again. And what he's got is, prioritizing. His systems must be amazing. To be able to do 97 songs in 97 weeks means that his time management and his systems must be identical, even though the creativity, of where he's getting his inspiration and doing stuff is like, whatever it is. But the actual releases of going, I know that on a Tuesday, I need to be writing because I need to have it done for Wednesday to have it out on Thursday. And, so his systems are there. But when you go back, what you see is this relentless gig after gig, which means if you're a promoter, I mean, you know who Russ is now, but if you're a promoter and you see a venue with Russ at the front and a load of people, you just go, that's what I want. I'm a promoter. I've got a venue. That's perfect. I just want to see my audience and you at the front of it. And I can picture that, but people have no imagination. So if you just go, I can do a gig, they go, I don't know how good you are. I don't know if people like it. I don't know what it looks like. So you've just got to be like, no problem. This is what it looks like. And I'm just going to, if I were you, I would feed in some kind of live content, whether it's like actual live or from gigs gone by or whatever it is. I would feed that in every third Instagram post, because what you're actually doing is sending a message and you're saying to live agents, promoters, venues, and everyone else, I can do this. This is what I do. I'm the live guy. I'm going to tour the world and I'll start with 50, but I'm going to end with 80,000. And so that message gets read loud and clear when it comes to live agents, because I've got it right now. I'm looking for people. So That's the bit I think you need to do with Instagram right now. We need to open the doors to Instagram. We need to bring people in, but monetizing it. If you want to go down the ticket route of getting festivals, of getting gigs, that's the story for you. And so every single time it's like, yeah, I do BMXing. Yeah, I'm into fitness. Yeah, I release music. But you know what I do? I go on stage and I fucking tear it up every single time. That's the bit you need to take away. Everything else is great, but that's the bit I do. And so people go, oh, okay. Because I promise you, there'll be people in your audience that you'll say, I'm going to do a live gig. And they'll say, oh, I didn't know. Like for you, it's completely obvious. Of course, I'm a DJ. Why wouldn't I go and do live gigs? People don't have the imagination. People will be just there being like, I didn't have any idea. I get that all the time where I'm doing like, I go and do talks and stuff. And like the amount of people that I've known for like 10 years will just be like, I didn't know you did talks. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, how the fuck did you not know that? Like, how did you not know? Like, it's what I do. But people just go, don't know, I was just busy doing my own thing. I didn't think about it. You've got to make it brutally obvious that this is what you do. Release gig. At that, from your socials. And in doing so, you will find that people will go, my mate is a promoter. I didn't think of putting these two and two together, but let me give you a shout and let me bring you in. And all of a sudden you've got another link.
Yeah. Cool.
Sweet.
A lot of things to digest at once, but
yeah, but the main thing to digest is, honestly, you are smashing it. Like, you haven't got a big hole in your game. Your game is so strong. I'm writing notes and I'm like, well, this is really good. Well, this is really good. What we've got to do now is we have to inflate it. We have to face the people and we have to say, you don't know who I am yet, but you need to know who I am because you like this music and you like DJs and you like going to parties and I'm the guy. So you need to know who I am. That's the biggest bit, is like, we have to, instead of just opening the doors, we have to fling the doors open and we have to bring people into this party so everyone knows who you are.